And we will move on to Michael Furber's talk. Yeah, thank you for coming, for joining. Remember Michael had a talk last year. He's an e-learning development coach at Cambridge Regional College, and he's an expert in the use of IT in teaching. And considering that this sphere is rapidly developing, I'm sure we have lots of new stuff to look into, and Michael will introduce next generation AI tools for teaching English.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Have I got sharing rights? Yes, I have. I'll just search for my screen. Hang on a minute. So, good morning. Thanks for having me again, Larissa. It's a real pleasure to listen to such diverse talks on different things, and it's really interesting and a great pleasure to be here. This morning, I've been thinking about this topic for a while, and AI, I've called it AI threat or opportunity. And the strapline I've got at the bottom is, can't we just tell them not to use it? Which is a kind of reaction I've had from lots of teachers around the college, Cambridge Regional College, where I work as e-learning development coach and also as an English teacher within construction, and previously in the ESOL department with Larissa. So so just how do we react to this technology and where's it all heading? So just as an overview, what I'll talk to you today about is the safe and ethical use of AI technology, some different uses of AI technology in education. And I'd just like to look at some next generation tools focusing on language teaching, and also focusing on the Microsoft suite. And I realize there are lots of tools out there, but probably most of them end up being assimilated into Teams and all the rest of it. So I'm just going to look at some of the things that Microsoft are doing around this particular topic. And then we'll have a bit of time for Q&A and a bit of discussion. So if you've got something burning you'd like to say about AI and how much you dislike it or whatever, you can get that off your chest at the end. So we'll talk about that. So but AI is a potential threat. So I think we're all aware of the obvious danger of AI is that students will use AI to cheat. And I think we're all aware of that potential, and there's a kind of moral panic around it. So a recent headline in the UK was that 92% of students have used AI with their work. And that was a kind of sensational headline about AI usage. If you dig into that piece of research, obviously this is concerning and there are obvious threats with AI and things we have to worry about. But when you dig into that research a little bit more closely, the picture is a little bit more nuanced. So I'll just read directly from the research, which comes from HEPI Student Generative AI Survey in 2025. In 2025, we find that student use of AI has surged in the last year, with almost all students now, 92% now using AI in some form, up from 66% in 2024. Some 88% have used Gen AI for assessments, up from 53% in 2024. The main uses of Gen AI are explaining concepts, summarizing articles, and suggesting research ideas. But a significant number of students, 18%, have included AI-generated text directly in their work. So from that initial headline that 9 out of 10 students are using AI to cheat, if we dig into it, we can see that maybe 18% in this survey have used it directly and passed off AI-generated text as their own. And a lot of the other uses are in explaining concepts and summarizing articles, suggesting research ideas. So there are more ethical uses of AI and perhaps a lot of potential in terms of education in those things. So what is safe and ethical use of AI? So in the college where Larissa and I work, we have guidelines like most educational institutions are struggling to cope with this new rise in technology. So Students can use AI to get ideas, answer difficult questions, check grammar, give example answers, basically everything except submitting AI-generated work as if it were their own. So teachers and education staff can use AI to support with their workload, to break down large chunks of information, create ideas, and for planning and administrative content. So we've also got more and more educational tools built into different platforms, which will use AI to support teaching and learning. So we've got this positive impact and we've got the concern. So there's a tension between those two things and how we cope with that. And a lot of teachers just saying, can't we just tell them not to use it? Can't we just ban it outright? And I think if we go down that road, we might be missing some potential uses of AI, which I'd like to look at today. So there's something called the 20-60-20 rule in AI usage, which is perhaps one approach to using AI. So 20-60-20 can be applied to lots of disciplines. And in terms of AI, it's a theory which explains how work is distributed between humans and machines in the creative and productive process. So the initial 20% of any idea is essentially human, focuses on your creativity, and this word ideation, which some of my colleagues think I invented, but is actually nothing to do with me at all. It's just the process of creating ideas. So AI, you need to prompt AI in order to get ideas. The 60% in the middle is where AI shines for its efficiency, taking on repetitive, time-consuming, and slow tasks. So if we think about administrative tasks, such as writing a scheme of work, you might have this initial 20% where you are getting ideas and you are creating what it is you want AI to do. And then AI might expand your ideas into text. So we have these large language models of AI. And in a time when teachers are struggling with workload, there could be this use in the middle of just padding out your content into language. So if you wrote a very rough email, it might just turn that into a formal email. That's one possible use. I have sort of one-to-ones with my line manager, and we record the conversation, and then AI will turn that into a to-do list, which is something that saves a lot of time and just creates something useful in the end of it. And finally, the latest 20% becomes the exclusive domain of human ingenuity. And this phase focuses on the revision and refinement of the work done by the AI. So not just giving responsibility to AI for any task, but thinking about your input and how you proofread and edit whatever AI spits out at the end. So if you said to AI, could you create me 10 PowerPoint slides on nature poetry and based on this exam board? So it might, whatever you put into it, and then AI might spit out a load of rubbish. And then you might think, but I'll use this bit here, I'll move this around, I'll add my own content, and that 20% at the end, and eventually you come out with something that's useful. And that's in terms of educational planning. And that's the source where I found that information. And just moving on to tools, what I'm going to talk about today are Microsoft Learning Accelerators. So this is a new suite of tools that are built into Microsoft Teams assignments. So I don't know how familiar all of you are with using Microsoft Teams assignments. Some of you might have used it. I'm not sure. These are the learning accelerators. So there's something called Reading Coach or Reading Progress. And this offers individualized reading fluency practice, helping students with pronunciation, syllabification, and vocabulary. Sorry, let's go back. I keep moving, trying to move this around. Vocabulary to find reliable sources, and vocabulary recall. So this first one was developed with primary school kids in the US to help them with reading and literacy. So you film yourself reading a text, and then the reading coach AI will give you feedback on what you've done. So it'll give you feedback on the number of words you've spoken per minute, the pronunciation of the word, and whether the syllabification is correct. So it will give you individualized feedback. And I've used that with ESOL students to quite interesting effect, that it enables them to measure their speaking in the privacy of their own home. And then with something like a presentation, they'll be able to practice it, record it. The AI gives them feedback on fluency, intonation, pitch, that sort of thing. And then when they come to deliver that, presentation in front of people, they've got an advanced level of confidence in how they're saying things. So I use that with quite high level ESOL learners, and they quite liked it because they got to practice in private before they gave a presentation to a group. Search Coach teaches students how to search effectively and find reliable sources and think critically about the search results. So I've got 2 teenage kids, and they come out with some interesting things, and I'll say, where did you hear that? And they'll say on TikTok, and the quality of that source may or may not be reliable. So this tool within Microsoft Assignments, you can set students a research project, and they'll have to come up with 5 reliable sources. So students can find a source, and then they'll have to reflect. They're given a box, and it will say, how accurate do you think this source is? And where did it come from? Why do you trust it? And the AI will also evaluate it in terms of whether it considers that a reliable source. So there's this process of evaluating sources that's built into Teams assignments. Speaker Coach is quite similar to Reading Coach in that it evaluates students' public speaking performance and provides personalized feedback on pitch, use of filler words, and the inclusivity of the language, whether it's appropriate language. So again, it's not a replacement for giving a presentation in the human classroom. It's a tool for students to go away and perfect that presentation and get a type of feedback that generally teachers don't give students feedback on. Oh, you're speaking at 50 words per minute, and you said this word wrong. So it might provide a level of detail that teachers generally give an impression of a presentation, and that was very confident. And I think it's not replacing that kind of feedback. It's just giving a slightly different kind of evaluation to students. Maths Progress creates instant maths assignments in Microsoft Teams assignments. And I don't think it's a very recent tool, but according to maths teachers I've spoken to, it's not quite doing what it says on the tin at the moment. The questions are not very precise. They're not presented in a very attractive way. But I think over the next, if we come back in 10 years, probably these sort of tools will be built into most teaching experiences and most classroom experiences. There's a college in Hull in the UK, and they're using AI within ESOL classrooms. So students are able to find sort of groups of words and phrases, and they're able to translate that in real time in order to contribute while they're speaking in an ESOL classroom. So it could be that AI is just a supportive tool within the conventional classroom environment. And I think the levels of performance and assessment and students remaining in the college has gone up. I can't remember, something exponential percentage of students using this tool. So their dropout rates have changed completely. So very low-level ESOL learners might find it really helpful to use that kind of tool within the classroom environment. Obviously, that has to be done in a very controlled way so that you're not putting all of the onus on the tool and people are just translating everything. But it could be that it helps to develop speaking confidence. It helps to develop knowledge of phrases and these kind of chunks of language. So if you have people generally don't learn words in isolation, they learn them as phrases. So it can be quite difficult to teach those set phrases and collocations and that sort of thing. In my 29 years of teaching ESOL, that kind of thing, sort of idioms, etc., were quite difficult to get across to students. So it could be that that's a supportive tool. And these are just the Microsoft ones, and they're built into Microsoft. So other tools are available. So this is the kind of feedback that students were given on their presentation. So as soon as you open the Teams assignment, the camera in your device opens when you give it permission. You read out your presentation, and this is the kind of feedback that students are given. So you've got the pace of the delivery, you've got originality, it's given some feedback on that. Sensitive phrases might be picked up upon. These kind of filler sounds that a lot of people use, I use them when I'm nervous, so you can tell when somebody's saying like all the time or whatever it is, and it will draw attention to that in a way that perhaps teachers wouldn't. This is the reading coach, similar sort of feedback, 160 correct words per minute, 72% accuracy rate, 11 insertions, 115 omissions from the text. So it gives feedback on mispronunciation, on repetition, self-correction. So this is the sort of level of technology that is available. But it's just a tool. Technology is not a replacement for a teacher. It's just something that is in your armory. So I think thinking about future ready skills, it's in the future, it's likely that soft skills such as social skills will be increasingly valued in an automated world. So that those things like presentation skills, getting on with your classmates, that sort of thing. So technology, I think, is a tool, and the human element, which makes the human element more important in a way. So a lot of people feel nervous about AI, that it's going to take my job, students won't need teachers, etc. And I think that's a misconception about technology. I think it's like fire. It's not good or bad. It depends what you do with it. So I think the human element of your lessons and you as a teacher becomes more and not less important when you use technology, because if you don't have some sort of outcome, human outcome, especially with language learning, I don't think it's very motivating. I think it's just a tool. And I can certainly see with my kids, they spend too much time online, they spend too much time on their phones, like typical teenagers. And I wouldn't like the idea of education in the future just being about this kind of technology. I think it's just something we can use to add value to what we're doing. So aspects such as presentation skills, social skills, and the development of students and their well-being, I think will become increasingly important. So especially language learning, there's a long history of technology being leveraged in language teaching. I think this is not something new. We have language labs in the 1970s. We have these sort of apps that you get these days like Duolingo. But then if you can't go to a dinner party or whatever, a social occasion, and speak in the language, what is it for? So I think our lessons in terms of language learning become even more important. Certainly in the teaching English as a foreign language sector, working with the students I'm working with doing English GCSE, I've also found technology can be very helpful with students with additional learning needs. So I've got a lot of ADHD, I've got a lot of neurodiversity in the room. I've got the students who basically failed academically at school, and they've been taught in a very conventional way. The technology will just attract their attention, and then once they've had some input or they've done something, we can then put that into action in the human element of the lesson. So it's about evidencing learning. And the technology, again, as I keep repeating, is just a tool. You, as a teacher, remain the most important resource. And I'll stand by that. Do you have any questions? Or even just opinions about this area, which is quite controversial, I would say.
Thank you, Michael. But as you say, it's just a tool like a fire. You have to know how to use it.
Yeah.
Dear colleagues and guests, do you have any questions? Well, we have the expert in AI usage in education. Yes, Maria, you're welcome.
Hi, Maria.
Yeah, hello. Thank you once again for this presentation. I wanted just to hear your opinion, maybe like the expert, on this topic, not about additional tools, like, the things we discussed, like AI being used solely for the purpose of doing the task. And usually when we talk about dangers and our concerns, we talk about students or pupils using AI. But I've seen like a growing discussion on students' frustration from with teachers using AI for doing some quizzes or tests. I think we can all relate because educators all around the world, I'm sure they are overloaded, overwhelmed with their teaching duties.
Admin work.
So yeah, administrative stuff, and sometimes it's just last minute, last resort thing. But I have experience of using them just to create a quiz, and even when you write the correct prompt, it usually flawed. The quiz it
Absolutely.
gets like some ambiguous answers or something like that, and it's not a question per se. It's like just this. We always talk about the frustration from the teacher side about the student, but now we have also this reflection, from students, pupils, because we, I think, didn't used to take into account their view on us using these additional tools.
I think it's a very good point, and I think there is a kind of lazy usage of AI, and there is a more sort of effective use of AI. And I think it comes back to that suggestion of 20-60-20, that if you need to be sure about why you're using it, I think this kind of usage, because it's 5 minutes before a lesson, you don't know what to do, it might have some value if you have no ideas, but you can't use it uncritically. I think if you just use it and you use whatever AI spits out, it can be awful. It can be utter rubbish. I think I said, could you produce a PowerPoint on Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol? And what it produced, it just was not effective. And because it was before, and I'll admit, I hold my hands up. I was pushed for time, and it was before 10 minutes before a lesson. I needed a PowerPoint. I used it. It really was not effective. So I think we've all tried that kind of thing, but I think effective prompting of AI might. So there are some things like if you give AI a persona, an audience, a context, and limitation. So there are some sort of approaches to AI, so where you have very precise prompting. So it might include the the qualification that you're studying. It might include information about the students that are going to be the audience for this resource, the persona which is you. So acting as a teacher of English GCSE in a UK further education college, could you produce a lesson on this for 10, 17-year-olds, 3 of whom have additional learning needs, in a tone that is professional and friendly? So you've got a lot of information going. If I just said, give me a lesson on Charles Dickens, what it's going to produce is too broad, and it's going to produce rubbish. So we talk about prompt engineering, and this is about the precision of your prompt.
So once again, it is just a tool. Yeah, we have to use in a proper manner.
Yeah, there's a lazy usage and there's a precise usage of it. And as somebody whose daughter had a teacher who was just using this, sorry, technology when you don't want it. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I found that my daughter's reports were being written by AI in a way that was just so generic, and there was no personal element to it. And I could smell it a mile off, because it's just, there's something missing. And also when students use AI to cheat, I usually realize in the first half second that Billy, who I teach, did not use the word anti-disestablishmentarianism. And, you have AI software, AI detection software, but it's not as effective as the human eye. So again, we can all sense, and I'm starting to get a lot of AI generated stuff pop up on Facebook feeds. And again, there's just something wrong with it.
Yeah, we can feel it.
The human element is missing. And you have a lot of AI generated videos on YouTube, and you watch them for about 3 seconds and think, this is not the reason I clicked on this. So AI has limitations. Perhaps it'll improve, I don't know. But I think we have responsibility as educators to use it ethically. And I think that's not an ethical use of AI, is just to take the labor out of something without any input.
Michael, we have one more question from our student. I know that you have a class to run, but just
I'm gonna go
a quick one. Ruslana, you're welcome.
Yeah, I'm just apologize for asking without having the camera on, as I'm just unable to do so. But building on the topic of your discussion, I would like to ask actually, in your opinion, should we actually teach not only students, but also educators on how to effectively and responsibly use AI?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm currently involved in doing both of those. So I'm training teachers in AI usage and trying to get my students to use it correctly. And I think in the future, if we're talking about future ready skills and employability, so if we just say to the kids we're teaching or young people, don't use this, and then they're in a job where they have to use it, we're kind of letting them down. So I think, yeah, but then we're all struggling, even, well, educational technologists, we've struggled over the last 2 or 3 years. How do we assimilate this? Because it came almost out of nowhere a couple of years ago, and it changed everything overnight. We were working on Moodle exercises and very, very straightforward digital exercises, and then just suddenly AI blows the whole thing out of the water. So we have to decide very quickly. So I think governments, and managers and educators, and everybody's struggling to have a policy towards AI. And it's a little bit overwhelming, but I think, yeah, we can't ignore it.
Thank you, Michael. Any other questions? I'm glad that we have students today, so they consider this issue from, well, both sides, as teachers used and not only students. I just wanted to highlight, Michael mentioned the use of Microsoft Learning Accelerator, and one of the tools is the Search Coach, yes, which is extremely useful in your research papers. So if you can get access to this, it is built in Microsoft, yes. So it can be a real help in your research work.
Yeah,
Any other comments? Yeah. Yes, Michael, you're welcome.
No, go ahead.
Maybe some more comments from our guests. Students, no? Yes, Michael. So yes, a few words and we have to let you go, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to run, but thank you for inviting me. And enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
And yes, with this talk, we come to the end, considering timing of our plenary talks. And I want to share in our chat box the link for the panel discussion. Considering the issues we had this night, a number of speakers cannot join us, so we've decided to have just one session combined. So everybody, please, let's have like maybe 5 minutes break, 5-10 minutes coffee break, and move on to this link to have the panel talks. And with this, I want to thank everybody, our keynote speakers in particular, our organizers, for coming today and just joining. So I know I have this feeling that we have like-minded people, and altogether we do foster insightful dialogue and in such a way promote what we do, and in particular this wonderful sphere of the sound matter of the language.